client setup and certificate processing ability within the CSR24 system. During today's training, I'm going to walk you through the setup of an insured account within CSR24 with a certificate template and the process for issuing certificates through the CSR24 system. The first screen you're going to see here is the login screen for the CSR24 utilities. Now, there are two ways you can access CSR24. The first option is to go through from the login screen, which you currently see here. This is going to be available anywhere you would have internet access. So the admin team could potentially provide you with your agency ID, user ID, and password to log in this manner. Another or second option is to log in utilizing the links option within TAM. If you were to go into TAM, locate a specific insured account, select links, and then click the option which should say CSR24 single sign-on, that will automatically bring you right into the CSR24 system. Basically, it will bypass this login screen. It will take your TAM credentials and log you into CSR24 automatically. So that will probably be your preferred method. I'm just going to click Login here, and I'm going to go ahead and locate our commercial demo account. This is the account that we will be working with during our session today. Please feel free, if you want to come in here and play around within the CSR24 system. The commercial demo account is available for everyone to utilize. It is not connected with any insured account within your management system, so this is truly a sandbox environment, or this specific account is a sandbox account. You can issue as many certificates, set up as many templates as you'd like, and it is not going to affect any of your true data. I would like to start with some navigation options, just pointing out and highlighting some features within CSR24, which we will be using throughout our training today. At the very top of our screen, this blue bar, we call this our option bar. The option bar has our home and locate button. Home will take us back to our main screen within CSR24. Locate will allow for you to search for other insured accounts within the CSR24 system. So I've already explained that you can go into TAM, locate your insured account, and utilize single sign-on. But once you're in CSR24, you can jump from insured account to an insured account right within CSR24. You don't have to go back into TAM and click on that single sign-on link again. You can actually find and locate those accounts right here in CSR24 by simply clicking Locate. Depending on what page you're on, the buttons after the Locate button will change depending on where you are within the system. Right now we're on the account detail and the insured information page, so that's why we can actually issue a cert, edit some information, and depending on your rights and permissions, you may have some additional features. To the far right, we have the Help button. This is going to show you a complete user guide of the CSR24 system. So I'm just pulling that up for you just to show you as an example. This has all the information that you would need to know about the CSR24 system. So I can go into premium certificates, I could take a look at proofs or account detail, and this has everything you're going to need to know about the system. To the right of that, we have our log off button. Of course, if you would like to log off at the end of the day, you're more than welcome to. To the left-hand side, we have what's called our navigation menu, broken up into 4 sections. First section is account detail, which is going to show us our contact, location, vehicle, driver, and equipment information. These sections are populated via an extract program which runs and pulls data from your TAM system and repurposes that into CSR24. So you're not starting from scratch when you're moving to the CSR24 system. If we go ahead and we were to select contacts, locations, or vehicles, and you had that information in your management system within TAM, that would then pull into CSR24 and be made available to you to utilize throughout the system. Our proof section, this is where we're going to be spending most of the time today during our session. This is where you're going to go ahead and create certificate templates, issue certificates, run your renewals, potentially do reprints of certificates or create zip files, as well as auto ID card options if those would apply. Our holder option will show you a complete list of the holders for this account. Now, this information does not pull in through the nightly extract. This is going to be imported into CSR24. We're going to be able to generate those spreadsheets, review those spreadsheets before bringing that information into CSR24, which you would do by an account-by-account basis. Last but not least, we have our policy section. Policies is going to show us any of the active policies that you've created within your TAM system and that have had a chance to pull into the CSR24 system. Those policies will be made available here, and these are the policies that we are going to be utilizing when we create our certificate masters. So now that we have an idea in kind of the navigation within CSR24 utilities, we're going to start our process here. And we're first going to start by creating a certificate master. That master will be able to be utilized to issue new certificates for any new holders or existing holders. So to add or create a new certificate master, you're first going to go to your Proof button within your navigation option, and you're going to go to your certificate templates. Now you have to forgive me here, we are dealing with a demo account, so you already see that we have 3 certificate templates created just from prior trainings. These normally, if this was a brand new account, you would not have any templates created within the system, so this would normally say 0. And this is how you're going to start your creation process. You're going to select the certificate template section and go right up to your option bar and click Add. Now by clicking Add, it's going to ask you for some required information. This is just to start the creation process of the certificate master. So we're first going to look at our template origination date. This is going to default to today's date, and if you're maybe creating this master midterm, that is something that potentially you can go ahead and utilize the date that it's pre-filling. Be to utilize the effective date of the policy. So if you're creating a certificate master and you're doing this and it's actually the renewal period for that policy, you could just put in the actual effective date of that policy here into our template origination date. Our template expiration date, that is going to show, should fill that with the soonest expiring policy that is going to expire, that is going to appear on the certificate master. So for some of your accounts, all the policies that you would create within the certificate master will have the exact same effective and expiration date. If that's the case, you can just put the policy expiration date into this field. Now, for other clients, you may have policies or you may have one line of business that expires in, let's say, September, and then another policy expiring in December. In that type of situation, you'd want to put the November date here because that is going to tell the system that a policy, the first policy on this template is going to expire in November or in September. So you need to make sure that you put the soonest expiring policy date into the template expiration date field. Now, since this is just an example and we're doing this on a demo account, I am going to leave that to a year out. The description for agency use and the description to be displayed, these are the names of the templates within the CSR24 system. So description for agency use is the name that you would see internally within the utilities system. You could go with whatever your standard naming convention is within TAM. You can just kind of start to utilize that same format here in CSR24. Some clients like to do all lines. Some clients prefer to use master, or you can actually lay out the lines of business like GL, auto, and worker comp. Once you've determined your name for the template, you want to simply copy that and put that into the description to be displayed. If you were providing client access, this is the name that the client would see. Now, I know we're not starting that process here in CSR24 as of yet, but this is a required field, so you need to put something in there. Just simply copy and paste what you have in your agency description. Included renewals will be defaulted as checked. That's going to tell the system that you want to renew this template at some point throughout its life. So probably 90% of the certificate templates that you're going to create within the system you will want to renew, and you're going to want to create renewal certificates for those. So just leave that as marked. If you have a very specific case where you're creating a certificate master that you are not going to be renewing certificates for, and for those holders, you could uncheck this box, and that's just going to help keep the system clean and neat. Allow client access will also be defaulted as marked. Now, we're not walking through the process for setting up a client with access and giving them an ID and password and permissions to issue certs, because we're not addressing those needs now. That's something for the future potentially. Now, just because this box is marked does not mean the client has access. You would still need to give them IDs and passwords and the ability. However, if you feel more comfortable by simply unchecking this box, you can do that. The canceled checkbox, this would be utilized more often during the midterm periods where potentially you have a client that is you need to cancel due to non-payment. You'd be able to jump back into the CSR24 system, go to the template you would have already been utilizing throughout the year, and you could check this canceled box, and it would add a watermark to any new certificates issued on that master. In addition, you could go ahead and do what's called a batch process and send out updated certificates to all the holders, notifying them that a policy has been canceled. So it is a relatively cool option if you have to do that. The include property nature of interest section, this box should only be marked if you are setting up an Accord property certificate, which would be our Accord 24s, 27s, and 28s. If we were doing a general liability cert or an intermodal, you would not need to check this box. So please pay attention. You should only be marking this if you are setting up an Accord 24, 27, or 28. During today's demo, I'll be actually doing an Accord 25 general liability certificate. So I've selected my form. I can pick and choose my appropriate Accord form, the 25. And once I've made that selection, I can click Add. Now that I've clicked Add, I can scroll down my screen. And what you're going to start to see is it's kind of a blueprint of a certificate here. So we want to double check our producer information. This should be defaulting with the correct location for your organization. Just make sure. You can take a look at our contact information to the right. Now, as of right now, it's going to default some basic information here. You can edit this information. Go with whatever your standard procedures are. Normally, you would have a producer name and contact information here. You could put that. If normally the account manager or account executive's information would be here, you could put that information. Or if you utilize standard organizational information in this contact section, which I see rarely, but some customers choose to do that, you could manually type in that information. Hopefully in the near future, I'll be working with the admin team to build a lookup list of contacts that you can actually search for your own information or the appropriate information to pre-fill into here. So you would simply click on Locate, and you'd be able to locate your own specific information, select your name or the producer's name or the organization name, and then it will put in the contact name, phone number, fax number, and email. So you don't have to type all that. That's something that we'll be working on hopefully in the near future. Scrolling down, we have our insured information. Our insured information is going to default with the account detail information, but just because it's here does not mean that you can't make changes to that information. So even though we have the account, commercial demo account, if we had a doing business as name, we could utilize any additional lines that we have here for some of that information. It's important to note that you have 50 characters per line, so just keep that in mind. But that should hopefully be helpful for you for getting any of those extra doing business as names that might need to appear. As we scroll down, we're going to get to our policy section, and we're going to walk through how easy it is to add a policy to a certificate master. So I'm going to add a general liability policy by simply clicking the Add Policy button, utilizing my policy dropdown, and selecting the appropriate policies. Now, as you can see, we have 3 policies here. Those were the same that were in our policy section earlier. And you would just select the appropriate policy. Once you've made that selection, the policy number, carrier effective, and expiration date will pre-fill here. You can simply click Save. And then you're going to double check your types of insurance and your limits. Now, assuming that you've filled out the Accord app in TAM appropriately, the types of insurance should pull in for you, and the limits that you determined on the Accord app should also be reflected here. Now, just because they pulled in this way does not mean you are kind of locked down to those limits. If you need to make a change to those, you can do that. Now that we've added our general liability policy, we can move on down to our auto liability, select the Add Policy button, select the policy dropdown, and choose our auto. Exact same process. double check your types of insurance, double check your limits. Continue on. I do not have an excess, so I will be skipping that and going down to my worker comp. I've selected my worker comp, just, again, double checking my types of insurance. Here at the bottom of the certificate template, we have the ability to add 3 other policies. These can be used for cargo, trucking, professional E&O. The important thing to note is that when I add a policy to the other section, let's just, in this case, as an example, I'm adding a general liability, but normally it would be something more like cargo or trucking. Once I've added that policy to the other section, you can see that it's not going to pre-fill any of the types of insurance information or the limits. Those are manual fields that you would have to complete yourself with the appropriate information. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. As we continue on, we have our description of operations, which is on the template level. This is for any verbiage that you want to appear on every single certificate, no matter what. So this is a great place to put cancellation verbiage, additional doing business as names that could not fit up in the insured section. If maybe you're attaching a blanket additional insured form, we could put that here as well. So whatever information you add here on the template level will go out with each and every certificate, no matter what, and cannot be edited or changed on the fly when you are issuing the certificate. So truly make sure that if you're adding verbiage here, it needs to be on every single cert. I'm just going to put in template level. Okay. It is important to note that we have a lookup button. This is going to be tied to a description of operations library, which the admin team can manage on a global level, or internally you can manage for your own specific insured. So if there's common verbiage like cancellation verbiage or additional insured verbiage, that can actually be added into the library on a global level so that it would be available to select from when you're building your certificate template. This same library is also available during the issuing process, so if maybe some of this verbiage is not appropriate here on the template, it could be added in when you're issuing for a specific holder. I'm just going to pull in that cancellation verbiage, scroll down. The last thing we need to check here is our signature. We need to choose the appropriate signature to add to the certificate template. Once you've added your signature, you're simply going to go to your top option bar again and click Save. At this point, you've completed the creation of that certificate template. And it looks like I actually have 2 that are the exact same name here. So just so that we don't confuse ourselves, I'm going to make this one expire. So we just have the one that I want to show here during today's session. Okay. To the far right, we have 3 columns. We have a holder column, an attached column, and CC. Holder is going to show us how many holders are currently connected to a specific master. So we just created this master. So currently we haven't issued any certificates against that master. We haven't imported holders to that master that we may have pulled out of TAM. So there's currently no one attached to that master. As you start to issue more and more certificates, this number is going to start to increase just like it did on these other templates. The attach column will show you how many endorsements are connected to this specific master. So if we were to add an endorsement on the template level, which is this section here, that is going to send that endorsement every time a certificate is processed. It's very simple to add an endorsement. You can click on the 0, and you can sort and search from your available endorsements within the system, whether they are the ones that you may have loaded to your specific insured account, or some of the ISO forms, which we have turned on for you, which will pull specific information like the policy number or the holder name into additional fields within that ISO certificate or ISO form. To the right of that, we have our CC. CC stands for carbon copy or confirmation copy. This allows for you to send a confirmation copy to the insured or potentially a carrier. You can set up multiple CCs per template. So if I want to set up a CC, I click on the 0. I would click Add. In the description, I would just put insured or carrier. In my attention, I would put who that is going to and then their email. The important thing to note is right here, send renewal notifications. You normally do not, or you should not be marking this box. If you decide to check this send renewal notification, and let's say you have 1,000 holders that you will be renewing when you start that renewal period, this insured is going to receive 1,000 individual emails if you process that renewal and you have this box checked. You're telling the system, I want the insured or whoever the CC is to receive an individual copy of every single renewal certificate that I am going to process, whether that's 10 certificates for 10 holders or 1,000. The best practice is never to utilize this. We will be going through the zip search option during our renewal training, where you can create a zip file of all the certificates that you created during a renewal process. This would not be the most beneficial way of getting that client those certificates. And let's be honest, if they got 1,000 emails, they would not be happy. So just word of caution, please do not check this box. Is the additional insured and waiver subrogation options. There are two ways to handle additional insured and waiver subrogation within the CSR24 system. One of those is done here on the template level, and the other is going to allow you the ability to edit or change information per holder. So let's go through the setup of both of those options. I'm going to select my 15 to 16 master, which I've already created, and I'm going to scroll down the template. And I want to go just to our additional insured and waiver subrogation fields. If I start to mark these as yes or no directly on the template as of right this moment, I'm telling the system that I want this information to print out exactly how I have it on the template level. So normally I see this being utilized if you have a client that has a blanket additional insured endorsement that pretty much every holder would receive. You can mark that information here right on the template level, click Save, and then you know that any time that certificate master is utilized, those yeses and nos are going to print out exactly how you have it on the template level. Now that works for kind of a select few clients. A majority of the time, and mostly what I see is that my clients need to utilize or be able to change that information per holder. One holder would just need additional insured, and maybe the next holder that they're issuing a certificate for would need additional insured and the subrogation waived. So to enable that ability, we need to go back into this template. And you're going to notice, and I'm actually going to uncheck these boxes first. Not that you'd have to do this, but just so it makes sense. You may have noticed when I first created the certificate master, there was this enable holder level AI subrogation waive status checkbox. This is here to tell the system if you want to manage that information on each holder. So if I mark this checkbox, I'm telling CSR24, I want to manage that information per holder, but you still need to indicate which fields you would like to be able to manage for that holder. We're not simply going to turn on the additional insured and waiver subrogation field for each policy line unless you determine which ones you would like to be able to change on the fly. So now that I have the box marked above telling the system I want to manage that information per holder, I need to go to my select lines and indicate via yes if I want to be able to change that on the fly. So I'm going to do that both for the general liability policy. For the auto, I'm going to mark it as no. This now means no, it's a hard no, and will always print as no on any certificate. And just as the example, I'm going to leave our worker comp blank, and that one will not appear during the issuing process, so you would not be able to change that on the fly. So again, just to reiterate, if I click on the Enable Holder Level AI and Subrogation Waive Status checkbox, and then change my additional insured to yeses for the policy lines that I would like to be able to change on the fly, I will now be able, when issuing a certificate, to manage this information just on the general liability. The auto will be locked down as no, and the worker comp I will not be able to change. So for the best way for you to actually see this is during the issuing process. So that's where we're going to jump to next. We're going to click Issue a Certificate of Insurance, which is available under our Proofs navigation menu. If you happen to be on the account details screen, you may notice in our option bar we do have that Issue Cert option. They're going to take you to the exact same place. Currently, on this specific demo account, we have multiple named insured turned on, so you could select multiple named insureds available for this specific client. That's something we will be saving for a later date on how to set this up. So just for today, I'm going to go to our Use Default. I'm going to select my 15 to 16 GL Auto and Worker Comp template. Once I've made a selection of my certificate master, I get a quick second to take a look at the information that was on that certificate template. So this is just here so that you can make sure you've selected the correct one with the correct policy lines and limits. If it looks good, we're going to go back up to our option bar and we're going to see 3 buttons that we would potentially want to utilize. Submit and select holder basically do the same thing. They're going to take you to an option where you can search for holders currently in this specific insured's account. So this is what's going to allow you to search for a holder, maybe utilizing an already existing holder or amend or update a certificate holder that was already issued. The Add Holder button is there if you absolutely know that this is a brand new holder. Commonly, though, once you've started to utilize the CSR24 accounts for months and months and years, you're not going to know if you've already issued a certificate for that holder in the past. So our best workflow and our suggestion is always to go to Submit. After selecting Submit, you're probably going to have your search bar collapsed like it is here. You'll want to open up that search bar, and you're going to look for the specific holder that you would like to issue a certificate for. So for our demo today, I'm going to look for Jason. I can search by name, address, named insured potentially. We can also do by description of operations if that's helpful. At this point, I'm just going to hit Find and see if there are any Jasons in the system. So currently, there are no holders for this insured account named Jason. So that's going to tell me at this point, I'm going to have to hit Add Holder to add in that holder's information. I've selected Add Holder, and now it's just asking me for some basic holder information. Adding in Jason Smith, add an address, okay. So this is just your basic information that might be needed. As we scroll down, we do have a section where it says one time only, or do they receive renewals? We are going to default and assume that every holder that you set up within the system should be receiving renewal certificates. However, if you have specific customers where they may only need you to issue a certificate for a 30-day project or a 60-day project, and you do not want that holder in the system forever just because you issued them a certificate once upon a time, you can go ahead and check the one time only, and it will add in a date interest end. You would move this date out to whenever you feel that that holder should be made inactive. So if it's a 60-day project that the certificate is going to be referring to, you could move that out just 60 days. But as I said, normally most of your holders will want to receive renewal certificates, so you'll leave that as checked. Continuing on, we now have our ability to change on the fly the general liability additional insured information as well as the general liability subrogation waived. On the template level, we determined that we wanted to manage that information on the holder record by checking that box, and we marked yes for the additional insured and subrogation waived under general liability, which means I can go in here and change this from a blank to a yes, to a no, or I could leave it blank if I wanted to. So you have those options now available to you. If you remember, the auto was set to no, and it's locked down as no, so I can't change these. They will appear as no on the finished certificate. The worker comp, which we left blank, is not appearing here, which obviously means we would not be able to change that if we needed to. So it is not available on the fly currently. I'm going to continue on. We're going to take a look at our endorsements here, which are on the holder level. So we already talked about dealing with endorsements on the template level If the endorsement needs to go out every single time, we would probably want to add that on the template level. But more often than not, you're going to have holders that are going to require specific endorsements. Those can be added here during the issuing process. So I can click on View or Edit, and we're going to see that same list of endorsements, the ones that are available for your specific clients, as well as the ones that may be globalized across all insureds. And to add that endorsement, you simply click on the endorsement if it's in the available list and click Save. If your endorsement is not in that available list, you can click Add and add that endorsement on the fly. So if it's on your computer, you can make any changes to that endorsement on your computer or make that endorsement available. You can upload it into the CSR24 system, and then that will be available for utilization on any future holders that you may need that endorsement on. Continuing on, we have our description of operations here. We first see our template portion. So we see that template wording with our cancellation verbiage as well. This is here to make sure that you don't duplicate the verbiage within the holder record. You don't need to put that cancellation verbiage twice. If it's on the template level, it will always appear. All you need to worry about is your holder-specific portion. In your holder-specific portion, there is no limit to the description of operations. Feel free to type as much verbiage as you need. If you overflow the certificate portion, we will automatically add an Accord 101. I'm just as an example here, I'm going to utilize my lookup button and add that additional insured verbiage. But as you can see, when I pull in that verbiage, I could change this if I needed to. I could also add in additional verbiage, such as a job number. And let's just go with 100. So I've added in my holder-specific verbiage. I'm going to continue on down the screen. I'm going to get into my recipient section. Recipients should only be utilized for the actual delivery information for the holder. So if we were delivering this directly to the holder, we can put in our attention of Jason. We've just added, here's your cert. We're going to go ahead and email this to just my email as an example here. Okay. You may be tempted to try to put in the insured's information in one of these recipient fields. That is something we would normally not suggest. This recipient information is retained for the renewal process. That's why we want you to put in the holder delivery information so that come renewal, you'll send those individual holders the copy of the renewal certificate. However, I know that there are some customers and clients that they want you to send them the copy of that certificate, and they would provide it to the holder at that point. In those cases, you're not going to want to use the recipient section, because if you did that for every single holder, if you put the insured in as a recipient for every holder that you've issued a certificate for throughout a year, come renewal, if you renew those and you decide to send them out, that insured would get a copy of each renewal certificate to their email. And if you put their email in as a recipient, and you did a renewal of 500, let's say, that insured potentially could get 500 certificates. In the case of when you want to send a copy to an insured and you have not set them up as a CC, your other option is to use the detail information here. Your email will pre-fill, but you could swap that out with the insured's email or whoever you'd like to deliver that to, and click Send Confirmation. This confirmation email is not utilized during the renewal process. It would only be for sending a one-time confirmation copy of the certificate. Once we've made our determination here, and I'm going to uncheck that, we could add our second recipient if that is required, or third. We're ready to issue this certificate, so I'm going to click the Submit button. It is going to process that certificate, and it's going to tell us exactly what has happened. So first, it's available to be viewed on screen by clicking the Open Cert button in our option bar. I can just show you that. I'll pulled it over to my other screen, so if I open this up, we see that that certificate was issued with the appropriate additional insured and subrogation waives indicated, as well as our template verbiage and our job and our holder level verbiage. Let's see if it did not add an Accord 101. It seems like we had all our verbiage within one section, so that's perfect. The second page that you see here is just that blank additional insured endorsement that I would have added just as an example, but normally you would have your endorsement fill out. In addition to printing, we see that it was emailed to Jason, and a confirmation copy went back to the account manager or account executive on this specific insured account. So you do get a copy of that information. Now I'm going to go back and issue another certificate because I want to show you a few other options. I'm going to select my same template. I'm going to go back through and click Submit. Let's say the customer called and they said, you know, you issued a certificate for me a week ago, but it had the wrong job number on it. Well, since you know that that certificate holder was already issued a certificate through CSR24, you can go in, you could search for that specific holder's information. So we're searching for Jason again. We see that Jason's holder record is here with our incorrect job number. Let's pretend that that job number should have been 150. So to overwrite that information and update and send out a revised certificate, I need to click anywhere on this line other than the copy button to the far right. I'm going to select that, review my information, and make an adjustment to my holder's job number. I'm then going to submit this again. It's going to issue a new certificate to that holder and resend that out utilizing the email address that was originally put into the system. That's a simple way to overwrite a holder's information if it was issued incorrectly. Now, I do want to touch on that copy button. Well, quite often, you're going to have insurers that do business with the same holders over and over again, but you're going to want to retain each holder record for potentially those different jobs or projects. Well, let's say that is happening in this case with Jason again. And we know Jason's doing another project, a job, let's say 200. I can use that copy button to the far right, select copy, and simply make the small adjustments needed for this specific job. So in this case, I'm just updating our job number. But all that other information is still applies. So if I need to make any other changes, I could. I click Submit. That second certificate is issued. And the important thing to note is if I go back through, you're now going to see that I have two records here for Jason, one for that first project and one for the second. So come renewal, Jason Smith is going to receive two different certificates, one for one job, one for the other. The last thing I want to show you here regarding specifically issuing certificates is the ability to pull up previously issued certificates. So I went through issuing a cert. Before I select my certificate template, in my top option bar, I have an ability to select previously issued certs. This is going to show you any certificates that were issued through CSR24 for this specific insured account. So if I select previously issued certs, we do have the option to search for specific certificates by potentially your holder or your description of operations. Let's just search for Jason to make our lives a little bit easier. And we see that 3 certificates were issued for Jason. Well, that makes sense. We issued the first one here, and I'm just going to highlight over that one. This was the first one we issued with job 100, and you can kind of see that in the pop-up. It may be a little small for you, but I can see it on my end, and when you go back to your local computers, you'll be able to see this as well. We have the revised certificate for job 150, and we have the third certificate holder or certificate PDF in here that is for job 200. So this is just here for historical purposes and to allow you to print off an already existing certificate with the exact time and date stamp of when it was originally issued, as well as resend a certificate. So let's say it's 6 months down the road and the client spilled coffee on the certificate for job 200. You can click on the preview or Adobe icon, open that certificate, and simply print that off if that's what they need. We can see that this is for job 200. Or you have the option to resend the certificate as it was on that specific date. So I could select anywhere else on this line. It's going to ask me to review that information. Looks good. Click Submit. And it's going to just pull up the recipient information, allowing me to resend it to a specific email or fax number. If I were to click submit, it would just send out that certificate exactly as it was on that date and time. Is the text library and the attachments option under your proof navigation menu. Both of these can be set up, as I said, on a general level by your admin team, or can be set up on an individual insured by insured case. So if you want to log in and you're in CSR24 and you know a specific customer that you have has standard verbiage that you're going to utilize over and over and over again, you can go to their record, select the text library, and you can actually build in verbiage that is going to be specific just for their account. This verbiage would not be utilized on any other insured account. You can click on Add, put in a title for that specific verbiage, and then type in as much of that verbiage as you'd like within your text box. This is then going to be available to be utilized either on the template level or during the issuing process. Simply, this is there to make your life a little bit easier so you don't have to retype the same stuff over and over and over again. You can determine who should have access to this specific verbiage. You will probably want to access, and you can uncheck client use, even though you're not giving clients access at this point. We quickly touched on attachments during the issuing process. As I said, it's better if you can upload those attachments beforehand or as you're setting up the templates in the actual account within the system. You can go to your attachment section, click Add, and upload those attachments right here. But as I mentioned, you can also add them on the fly during the issuing process. Any endorsements added to the insured level is only going to be available for that specific insured. Those endorsements don't bleed across to other insured accounts unless you determine that you want those to be connected to other insured accounts. The admin team can add in global attachments or endorsements. If there are endorsements that are used quite commonly across your entire insured base, let your admin team know, and they'll be able to add those in for you. At this point, that concludes the training for our new client setup and certificate process. Thank you.